Well, I want to welcome you back to Grace Cafe. My name is Mark Rae. I'm Executive Director of the Grace Center for Spiritual Development here at Grace School of Theology. My guest again, Dr. Dave Anderson. We had in our last session, a rousing discussion going through a misunderstood verse and many times a verse taken out of context in Romans chapter 10. We're going to tackle another one of those verses today in 1 John 5, verse 1. Dave, thanks for being with us again and unfolding for us answers to some of these difficult passages. We really appreciate your time.
Great. Awesome. Glad to be here.
Okay, let me read 1 John 5:1, and then as we did in the past, kind of let us understand who the author is, who the audience is, context of the verse before we really dive into what's the issue at stake here. So we're in 1 John chapter 5, verse 1. Whoever believes that Jesus is the Christ is born of God, and everyone who loves him who begot also loves him who is begotten of him. There's a lot in there.
More than you may think.
All right, so talk to me about, let's set the stage. Author, audience, context of the letter.
Well, the Apostle John is the author, and most think that this was written while he was exiled to the Isle of Patmos. They would put all of John's writings in that setting, and that's, of course, in the 90s, 90 to 100 AD. Some of us think that all the New Testament was written before 70 AD, and the reason is these are all Jewish people, and it's pretty hard to see their entire system fold, meaning the destruction of the temple,
right,
without their mentioning it in some way.
Right.
Matter of fact, in John 5, we can show grammatically that the temple was still there when John wrote, because he talks about the fact that there was a pool at that time, and he uses the present tense for that in chapter 5, verse 2. He says, there is in Jerusalem by the sheep gate a pool, which is called in Hebrew Bethesda, having 5 porches. Well, that's while he's writing John, and if he's writing in 90 AD, that pool was destroyed. You can go to Jerusalem today, and usually your guides will take you by that pool, and it's completely destroyed. So all that to say, a lot of us think all of John's writings were before 70 AD. But his audience is a general audience. It's Jews and Christians, those who are scattered around the Mediterranean world, as well as those in Jerusalem. And many of us think that the gospel is primarily about how to have a relationship with God, an eternal relationship. Because chapter 20, verse 31 says, in speaking of the signs, there are 8 signs in the book of John. These are written that you may believe. These are written that you may believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that believing you may have life in his name. Now, I would say John 1 through 12, and then the Passion of the Christ are dealing with evangelism. I would say the upper room is dealing with deep, deep fellowship. So it deals with both relationship and fellowship, but primary emphasis is relationship. When you get to 1 John, it's a little different story. There's a little bit, not much, about having a relationship with God. There's a whole bunch about having fellowship with God. That's why in the first few verses, fellowship is mentioned 3 times. Verse 3, that which we have seen and heard, we declare to you that you also may have fellowship with us. And truly our fellowship is with the Father. And then he says, if we say that we have fellowship with him and walk in darkness, we lie and do not practice the truth. So right at the beginning of the letter, as you would expect, he talks about his subject, which is having fellowship with God. He gives the principles then about having fellowship. Now, Is that enough of that? You want me to go on to
No,
the
no, we're
chapter?
good. Keep rolling.
Yeah,
We've got so the context of the book is going to be fellowship.
right.
He's writing to a general audience, Christians and Jews. It is John, more than likely written before 70 AD, before the destruction of the
Well,
temple and the fall of Jerusalem.
well, I wouldn't die on that one. It's not going to make a big difference in our interpretation here.
Okay.
Other than a lot of people think that First John is attacking incipient Gnosticism. Incipient mean the beginnings of Gnosticism. Gnosticism wasn't full blown until around 250.
And
But
Gnosticism being that you have to have a special knowledge
uh
in order to kind of be in the inner circle.
is one of the mystery religions in which you have to be initiated, and only the
Yeah.
elite getting on, and
Right.
the special knowledge. But in essence, they only thought spiritual things were good, material things were evil. So they didn't believe that the divine spirit could actually become flesh,
Yeah.
because then it
Couldn't
would be
inhabit
tainted.
yeah, couldn't inhabit a body,
Yeah,
a physical
yeah.
body. Of course, there
So
was a
one
special there was a secret handshake with that too, right? Kind of
no, that's only known by you and me. And
a.
I think you may have
People
forgotten
might think we're Gnostics. Come on.
that. 1 John 1 uh, puts a heavy emphasis on the physicality of the Word. That which was from the beginning, which we've heard, that's auditory senses.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen, that's optical. We've looked upon, that word's a little more pregnant than seeing. It's to behold in such a way that you see there's something unusual about this person.
Yep.
But then our hands have handled. So that's tactile. Now we're touching.
Yep.
So that concerning the word of life. So it well may be he was attacking incipient Gnosticism, which would have been further along in the 90s than it was in the 60s. So that would be an argument for John being late. But we want to get on to our problem passage here, because it's a complicated one to explain, but in a way very easy. Whosoever believes that Jesus is the Christ is born of God, and everyone who loves him, who begot, also loves him who is begotten of him. Now, we have to set the context for the problem. And the problem is, in Reformed theology, their crux doctrine, the most crucial doctrine, according to R.C. Sproul, in their entire system, is that someone is born again before he believes. In their system, since man cannot make a choice for Christ, he has to be born again in order to make that choice. Now, we agree that no one would choose Jesus on his own. It requires the illumination of the Holy Spirit as to who Jesus was, the convicting ministry of the Holy Spirit. He convicts of sin, righteousness, and judgment, and the wooing ministry of the Father. John 6:44. Mm-hmm. No one comes unto me except the Father draws him. Now, R.C. Sproul, because of his approach to all this, translates elko in John 6:44 as the Father drags him. So he views you as being dragged into the kingdom by the omnipotent God. Of course, that just opens more questions. Well, why did he drag you, not me? So you wind up destroying the omnibenevolence of God, where it says he loves everyone the same. No, they teach Theodore Beza was the first to make a chart of it. He loves the elect, but he hates the reprobate. And they even use the hatred of God to bring glory to God. Anyway.
Yeah, we're a big rabbit trail. Yeah.
R.C. Sproul says that the main difference between Reformed theology and dispensational theology is regeneration before faith, or being born again before you can believe. Now, if that's so important, they better find ways to support it, right?
Right.
So John Piper says this verse is the number one verse in all the Bible to support that regeneration comes before faith. Well, read 5:1, and where do you get that? Whosoever believes that Jesus is the Christ is born of God. Everyone who loves him who is begot also loves him who is begotten. Well, all they need is the first phrase, or what we call,
Yeah.
whosoever believes that Jesus is the Christ is born of God. That's the phrase that's open to discussion. And the reason it is because this takes us back to 8th grade, maybe 9th grade English, that we were taught the difference between past tense and present tense and future tense. If I say I believed, past tense. If I say I believe, present tense. If I say I will believe, that's future tense. Now, the Greeks as well as English, we have something called the perfect tense. We have present perfect, past perfect, blue perfect. But the significance in Greek of the perfect tense is that it's completed action in the past with present results. Not future results, that's a misuse of the perfect tense, but it's completed action in the past with present results. So, interesting here, the word believe, whosoever believes, we can tell from English what tense that is. Is that past, present, or future? Whosoever believes.
Believes. It's present.
That's present tense. That Jesus is the Christ, is born of God. Now, you might get thrown off here by the is, because that makes it look like present tense. But in Greek, this is really perfect tense. Now, I apologize for having to get into some grammar.
No,
here.
This lays a foundation for why we interpret it the way we do.
Yeah, this is the only way to explain it. Now, it might help if you can remember Christ's words on the cross. When he said tetelestai, you remember how that's usually translated?
It is finished.
Yeah. Did you hear the is?
Mm-hmm.
That sounds like present tense, doesn't it?
Sure
but that
does.
is perfect tense, tetelestai in Greek. Now, the is not a bad translation. Here's why. Completed action in the past, present results. The translator is also an interpreter, and he has the option of emphasizing the completed action in the past, or he can emphasize the present results. If he wants to emphasize the completed action in the past, he would say it has been finished. It has been accomplished. It has been finished. They haven't emphasized the completed action in the past. If he wants to emphasize the present results, he would say it is finished.
Yes.
It's completed action in the past, but it is done. It's all done. It is finished. Fini. Fait accompli. It's done. All right, so here, what they're doing with their translation is putting the emphasis on the present results. Is born of God, but that's a perfect tense. Now, so what? Well, their point is that it's completed action in the past. Completed action in the past. Completed action in the past. So this word believes is present tense. So they say, okay, then the birthing, completed action in the past, is born of God, has been born of God, took place before the believing, which is present tense. In fact, they go on to say that the birthing causes the believing. Or the believing is the result of the birthing. But they prefer a causal, that the birthing causes the believing. And there they have it in that one short phrase. They think ironclad proof that birthing takes place before believing. Now, how would a person sitting in the pew go against that? They don't have the tools to do it. But any second-year Greek student in a seminary can refute this. It's easy. They've made what we call a sophomoric error, literally and also figuratively, in Greek grammar. And that is, in the Greek grammar, you distinguish the types of participles you're using. Now I'm diving deeper into the grammar, I know. But we know what participles are in English. For example, in Ephesians 5:18 and following, you have a group of 5 participles. There it says, don't be drunk with wine wherein is excess, but be filled with the Spirit. And then listen to all these participles. We'll note the participle by an ing. Speaking to one another in psalms, hymns, spiritual songs. Singing, the ing. Mm-hmm. Making melody. Okay. Giving thanks. Submitting to one another. You had 5 participles in a row. Now, what you have to decide is, how are they related to the main verb? Be filled with the Spirit. Well, one way to distinguish 2 broad categories of participles, some of them are adjectival, some of them are adverbial. Oh, hope I haven't lost you here.
No.
We know what adjectives are. They describe nouns. The red flag. Flag's the noun, red's the adjective. The red flag. But if we want to describe a verb, we put an ly on it. He ran quickly. There's no noun there. That's just a verb. He ran quickly. We wouldn't say he quickly. Well, you could, I guess. But he ran quickly. That quickly is describing the verb. Okay, some participles describe the verb, so they're called adverbial participles. Some participles describe the noun, so they're called adjectival participles. And there's no subjectiveness on this. It's very clear, it's very objective in the Greek. When they want to have an adjectival participle, they put a little article in front of it, the. When you want to have an adverbial participle, you omit the. You don't have it at all. So here we are in Ephesians 5:18. None of these participles, speaking, singing, making, giving, submitting, not a single one of them has the little article in front of it. We've got laluntes, adontes, salantes, eucharistuntes, and finally, hupotasamonoi. Those 5 participles do not have a little the in front of it, all right? Whew. So since we know they're adjectival participles, now there are about 8 categories of adverbial participles, telling you how these participles relate or describe the main verb. Well, the 2 uses that jump to the forefront in verse 19 to 21 of Ephesians 5:18 are result or means. In other words, be filled with the Spirit by means of speaking to one another, singing, making melody, giving thanks, submitting. In other words, that's how you can be filled. Another would be results. You just translate it that way. Be filled with the Spirit with the result that you're speaking, making melody, giving thanks, submitting, etc. All right? Do you get it? All those adverbial participles describe the main verb. Now, I had to do all that to get you back to 1 John 5:1.
Yeah.
The sophomoric error is that the word believes is a participle. You can't see that in English, but it is. The Greek here is pasha pisteuon. Pas is everyone, or in this translation, New King James, they say whoever.
Whoever.
And then here comes the little article, ha. That tells you right away it's an adjectival participle. It precedes the participle believing, or pisteuon. Pisteuon. But you translate it like a relative clause. Literally, this would be translated, the one who is believing. The one who is believing. That'd be a wooden translation. In fact, let me see. I've got some software in front of me. If there's some translations that bring that out. 5:1. Yeah, here's one. This is the English Standard Version, which is pretty popular today. Everyone, there's your pas. Who believes? There's your ha. Who and believes? There's your pisteuon. Everyone who believes. Let's see what. All right, NAS does the same thing as New King James. Whoever believes. NIV goes like the ESV. Everyone who believes is born of God. All right. So here's what we're trying to say. Here's the main point. This participle believes is an adjectival participle describing whoever. All right. It is not an adverbial participle connected to is born. And that's the big sophomoric error they're making, is to say that there's a connection between the verb and this word believe. In other words, that the birthing completed in the past causes the believing in the present. and they're just not true. It's not even possible in the Greek language. There's a associate professor of New Testament at Gordon Conwell. I'm sorry to say I can't remember his name right now, but he wrote a whole article trying to warn his Calvinistic friends that you can't use this verse for what they're trying to do. And I always love it when someone of a different, within their own camp, tries to straighten them out. So this would be like saying, my barber, who eats bacon and egg for breakfast every morning, completed a marathon last week, and telling me that completing the marathon caused him to eat bacon and eggs for breakfast.
Yeah.
See, when I say my barber, who eats bacon and eggs for breakfast every morning, that whole who eats bacon and eggs for breakfast every morning is describing what? Running the marathon?
No, it's describing the barber.
The barber. And that's what this is. Everyone who believes. The who believes is describing the everyone. And this translation in New King James is okay, whosoever believes. The believes is connected to the whoever, or in Greek, the pas, because it's an adjectival participle describing the pas. It's not describing the verb. It's not connected to the verb in any way, shape, or form.
And so it pulls it out of the chronological order. Yeah. I think we lost you there. Oh, we did. We lost you completely.
Yeah.
I can hear you. Audio. Keep talking.
Well, you don't need the video, do you?
No, we can keep talking. There you go. Now we're back. So complete the sentence with me, though, Dave. Whoever believes, so the believing is attached to the whoever, not to the born.
Right.
So the one who believes, describing the action of the believer, the one who believes, and the belief is in Jesus Christ, is then he is the one who is born of God. He is the born again one. But the action is not chronological. It's on the basis of whoever believes. That's the defining factor.
There's no connection at all between the verb and the participle here.
So then drop to this, and I understand
people who are born again. People who are born again also. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the people who are born again are the ones. I mean, believers are born again. There's that. I mean, we're not talking about a chronological order here.
You could say people who are born again give money to Jesus, and then try to tell me that being born again causes you to give money to Jesus.
Yeah.
No, it's just there are a lot of things true of believers in Jesus.
Correct.
In fact, this book in other places will say that they love Jesus, things like that. But it doesn't mean that being birthing causes it.
Got it. So complete the rest of the sentence. Just because there's some strange words in here, complete the end of verse 1, and everyone who loves him who begot, the begot is defining him, also loves him who is begotten of him. Just give me the simple explanation of the remainder of this verse.
Okay, but I just want you to know everything you're saying is garbled, so I don't know how this is.
Oh, okay. Complete the verse.
Yeah, okay. Well, it just says that here you have another phrase here with kai pas ha agapon, which is, again, the ha agapon is an adjectival participle describing pas. Everyone who loves him, who begot, also loves him who is begotten of him. It's the same thing. The begotten of him is not connected to the fact that he loves him. It's
right.
True, unless if you haven't been begotten of him, you probably don't love him. But it's not true to connect the loving with the begetting. That just because you've been begotten of him automatically causes you to love him. In fact, Don't you know believers who don't love him? I mean, it's horrible to think of.
Yeah.
But if you go into a big state of rebellion, you could go years. At least I think you could go years. In fact, I know a believer I'm thinking of right now who hates God, and I think he's born again, but he doesn't like what God gave him at birth, so he's bitter and angry, and he certainly doesn't love him.
Well, and you could certainly go back to the letter to the Corinthian church, that you have carnal,
Yeah.
and you could, I mean, they're ones who are believers, but not walking, not living.
Yeah, here's another one. Jesus says, where your treasure is, there your heart is also. Do you know believers who don't give any money to the Lord's work? Now, someone says, well,
Yes.
if they don't, they're not believers. That's what maybe the Reformed people would say. I would just say their heart's not with Jesus,
Yeah.
you know? In fact, when I was finishing seminary, the president of the seminary said, we're in our last class, and I want to give you a test. This is a pop quiz. Pull out your checkbooks. Let me see what you've given to Jesus this month and the month before and the
Wow.
month before. So you've had all these years of study. Has it increased your love for Jesus? If so, it'll show up in your
Wow.
pocketbook.
That's
Kinda
fairly convicting. Yeah.
Pretty convicting because you got 90% poor seminary students there.
Yeah.
But he's saying if you don't give now, you may not give later.
Yeah. Great
Do
point.
you love me?
Well, Dave, thanks. I really appreciate you. Just even the grammar lesson, it does begin to show us that even difficult passages, there is something to be said for having an understanding of the languages themselves and just simple, basic English language.
Amen.
Because, well,
It
and because even in
justifies
this
my existence.
yeah, that's right. You are New Testament Greek scholar. There's a reason for that. Well, we're going to have you back again to tackle another couple of passages here in another couple of months. But I just want to thank you again for taking the time and being willing. You dove in fairly deeply in just the understanding of how the language affects the reading of the passage, which is why knowing some of that is really key. It's really important. So thank you, friend. I appreciate you spending some time with us today. And thank you all, our audience at Grace Cafe, for spending time with us as well. We will be back with another episode soon. Thank you so much.